Some time ago, I talked about an alternative world movement as a necessity for us non-whites who find ourselves neglected, wasted, and impoverished to create our own society in order to address these problems. Feeling that it is unnecessary for us to continue working for over thousands of years and still have no benefits for the works of our ancestors or those who came before us. And so the purpose of this movement is to utilize all human resources as well as earthly resources for the benefit of all, ensuring that in about 1,000 years from now, there will be no need for work and there will be no more lack. Furthermore, as human beings, we have the ability to transcend in consciousness by unlocking our 10 domain DNA strands. And when this happens, new forms of intelligence are released together with new attributes in character, in the sense that we are aware of the words such as greatness, perfection, etc. But we hardly reach this because we are hardly kind, loving, etc. And yet, without love, there will be no life because love is what gives the mind its orientation, such as curiosity, kindness, happiness, joy, etc. So, with love, our minds expand together with our DNA. And so here we are living in a world which is obsessed with evil, hatred, fears, etc. Where love is neither the main commodity because we have money and materialisms. And many of these things are supposed to take center stage in our lives. And the end result is that we live in a world of poverty, inequality, wars, etc. And so the purpose of the alternative world movement is to challenge the Western system, in particular the capitalist system, which wastes human lives as well as earthly resources, by creating a global consciousness, which will lead to a new civilization. And this civilization will be modeled from natural laws. We will build towns in secular forms, reflecting the tree of life, or in this case, the Metatron's cube, which is our original DNA. And we can have as many of these designs as possible, and they will be modeled from consciousness, which when it expands, it creates fractions, and these fractions form geometry. And these geometries become the design templates for unit heavens, as well as multiple dimensions, as well as our DNA and the physical world in which we see. So Mother Sacred geometry can be used in architecture, in engineering, and infrastructure development. And this can help us advance ourselves as human beings. But unfortunately for us, much of this knowledge is cancelled from us because we are given junk education in the form of maths, which we are receiving at schools, physical science, and many of these knowledges. But we all know that knowledge can only come in two forms, in the form of truth as well as lies. And so truth refers to that which is eternal or remain relevant in any dimension, whether it's an earthly dimension, which is the 3D dimension, 4D, 5D, etc. Excuse me, meaning that it's a knowledge which you can be born with and depart this world with. Unlike much of what we learn at school, which is necessarily designed to help us function within this world, to become employees, in other words, slaves for the system, and thus earn money from 9 to 5 and spend 65 years of our lives working for the system. And so, if we were to be honest with ourselves, this is nothing more than a waste of our lives. Where we at first were impoverished through slavery, colonialism, and many other means, and thus manipulated to become slaves in the form of educated workers. And foolishly, we believe that whenever we go to school and we gain these qualifications, we become important human beings who have a relevance in reality. But without slavery and colonialism, none of this would be necessary. Furthermore, if we're living in a truly civilized society where every generation works for the one to come and capitalizes on the achievements of the previous one, we'll eventually be able to achieve everything we could desire. In other words, we'll build excessive houses for everyone, and have renewable energies. Furthermore, with love being dominant, our DNAs would expand, thus giving us further intelligence. And this intelligence would allow us to produce even advanced technologies in societies. At 12 DNA strands, with 12 active DNA strands, we'll no longer be able to live in a physical world. In other words, we'll be living in multiple dimensions, having the ability to travel throughout the universe and beyond. meaning that we'll be able to access knowledge and information which is of from higher civilizations which were way ahead of our own. We also have to remember that the universe's creator was created by 1 billion 8 million Elohim. And after they did this in groups of 144,000, 72,000 women and 72,000 women meditating for 6,000 years and resting for 1,000 years. After a single star system or a galaxy would mature, the same number of people will be sent to circle those star systems. A star system is a galaxy, and within a galaxy there are billions of potential Earth planets or solar systems which may inhabit life. Meaning that by the time ours came into existence or matured, many others were already settled together with the original one, which is Star Cyrus, which has never deviated in terms of consciousness. In other words, it is high in terms of civilization than all the others. So given that we were to have access to these worlds, we'll produce technologies or civilizations which are of higher standard, thus eliminating the need for others to go to work, whereby education will simply involve initiations whereby one would be taught on how to master their own character in order to become a full god at the age of 77, beginning from the age of 7. After they've mastered the 144,000 perfect attributes, such as honesty, love, greatness, strength, knowledge, wisdom, etc., they will be able to produce as many or to create as many as 144,000 original prototype plants as well as animals. So in such a world, no one will be able to buy food because one will be able to create plants from scratch as well as animals. Furthermore, everyone is a reflection of the earth, meaning that the earth is designed to house a certain or a limited number of people. In this case, 1 billion 8 million. The whole reason for this is for everyone else to have equal access into natural resources or the minerals or their earthly requirements in the form of resources available from earth, which are finite in number, whereas the earth has the ability, or human beings have the ability to expand to infinity. So without the intelligent management of these resources, we can only create problems through scarcity, poverty, ultimately conflicts and wars. And so the Western world has capitalized on this ignorance of how we are supposed to rationalize these resources, as well as the fact that we've exceeded the required number of people who are supposed to exist on Earth at a given time. With that being said, we are still using a very awkward or negative social system which dictates that we become slaves in order to earn money so that we can buy our existence. So the whole purpose of this new movement is to challenge the current thinking as well as provide new alternative solutions. Because if we were to see all the errors of this system and find their immediate solutions, we'll be on our path to correct every wrong and thus replace it with a perfect solution. And so I'm pleading to everyone with conscience or who's caring, who has been a victim of poverty and is living in a world of uncertainty such as the rest of us, because we're at the risk of having whites destroyed through a tsunami, or in this case a pole shift, because it has always been known from ancient times that the earth has two equators, and this governs the earth's resources as well as its surface, because in the same manner that as human beings we have skins, and these skins have the ability to produce dead skins as well as waste products, and this allows us to continue our survival. So in the same manner as the earth must have two equators so that it shifts from one dimension after 6,000 years to the next. And so it has been 6,000 years ever since we created different races, and the equator has been on the same position. And so the ancients, after the destruction of the two islands where the different races were created, Atlantis and Lemuria, created or mapped our planet, and thus gave us our current map of the globe, which was not designed by whites, by the way. And so this map of the globe also has a line which goes from where you have the temple in Jerusalem down to the pyramids at Giza, down to where you'll find many of the Dogons throughout West Africa, all the way to Peru and Easter Island. Then it goes up throughout Atlantic Ocean. So this secondary belt or secondary equator will soon be our main equator as soon as the Earth's pole shifts have taken form. When this happens, the US, which also has Yellowstone, which is a flat active volcano, will erupt and whites will be destroyed, and the economic system will never be redeemed. The foolishness here is that we have followed a single system and without creating alternative measures, just in case we were to have problems. China, which is the second largest economy in the world today, has followed the Westerners in every form, and so China cannot be trusted to take over. As a matter of fact, China is out trying to exploit Africans in the same manner as Westerners. And so it is upon us black people to take matters into our own hands before the inevitable happens. We will find ourselves having to start from scratch. And with this being said, and also the understanding that nothing in nature remains the same, and that change is the only constant in reality or in existence. It thus becomes necessary for us as black people to create our own social systems which we can enforce into our universities, mainstream media, etc., in order to challenge a new form of thinking, so we can move from being the beneficiaries or the charity cases of this world to being the main role players by providing a sane social system. In due time, I will explain this and even provide pictures for us to understand the importance of creating new social designs, because the current one has failed, and the current pandemic is just a tip of the iceberg, because we have fought two wars, the last one being the Christian War, also known as the Second World War, which involved an atomic bomb. Given that we are to have the Third World War, our lives will soon come to an end, and we must be clever enough to prevent such things from happening, because our politicians only care about making profits and are governed or put there by people who have money, because we all understand that we live in a capitalist system where money rules the world. And so our presidents do not represent us. So in a country like South Africa, all the alternative leaders, such as the leaders from AZAPO and PAC, were killed in order to leave only those who came from rich backgrounds, who were only there to represent themselves, and thus created or broke a deal for themselves. As a result, South Africa has become the most unequal society ever since our so-called democracy, which is nothing more than an imperialism. And they have used Mandela as a form of expanding this imperialism. So it's upon us to change the situation as quickly as possible before it's too late. And I know that it's possible and it can be done. And I thank you for your time. I hope you appreciate this message as we continue to grow in consciousness and many other ways. Peace.